welcome here at Worksaholics. We are so proud of the work that we're doing with the Floyd Wickman organization over the next few weeks with you. And I want to tell you personally, this is going to be some important work that we do together, some work that can make a difference for you, some work that can make a difference for your real estate career. And I believe it can be really important for you if you pay attention over the next few weeks. I can tell you that my experience working with the Floyd Wickman organization as a real estate professional made a huge impact in my career. Really, really did, Floyd. And I'm really proud to be working together with the Floyd Wickman organization, and I'm really proud to be able to bring this kind of a conversation to real estate agents all over the country. You know, when I was an 18-year-old kid, I went out and got my real estate license, and I went to work for a guy named Herb Gimmelstob. Gimmelstob Realty Better Homes and Gardens was a great big brokerage in Palm Beach, Florida. And Herb was a leader. He wasn't just a real estate broker, he was a real leader. And he brought Mr. Wickman into that organization in 1986. Now, I was a young kid, and I sat in a room and listened to Mr. Wickman for about 45 minutes. The investment that I made in the Floyd Wickman organization at that point in my career allowed me to provide for my family for the next 30 years. Really. Floyd, you've had an effect on so many people in our industry and me personally. And I know that if I were going to tell these folks, you know, about your background, the first thing I would mention is that you're in the Speaking Hall of Fame and that you've been recognized by the National Association of Realtors, one of the top 25 most influential people in our industry. But what would you say if you were going to introduce yourself for the first time to this group?
It's up to me.
You're on the spot.
Oh, well, well, after over 3,000 speaking engagements, that's the first time I was asked that.
Is that right?
So let me see how I would. If it were up to me, I think being in the Hall of Fame, it makes me feel good. And, you know, NAR saying I was one of the 25 most influential people, that's great. You know, maybe I made a difference. Over 300,000 people graduated my program, so there's credentials. But the best introduction I ever got was when Salesperson magazine named me the extraordinary ordinary man, because that's how I see myself. Yeah. I'm just a working guy. So that's the way I'd introduce me.
I have a series of thought leading questions just to kind of see where this thing goes.
Okay.
And then we'll just open up dialogue and maybe take some questions from some folks throughout the live part of what we're going to do, and we'll kind of put it all together. What I wonder from your perspective is, it's 2013. We've just come through arguably the toughest cycle that's ever been seen, seen in the residential real estate business. Is it a good time to get involved in the real estate industry as an agent today?
Oh, if timing is everything, I think today, any agent that wants to get started in this business, now is the time. And people ready to get restarted, don't put it off, because right now we're seeing this huge desire for listings, for properties. People are lining up to buy properties all over North America. So if your son or daughter were talking about getting in the real estate industry, what would be one of the things that you'd tell them? I mean, what would be the one thing you'd want to say to them when they were thinking about getting into it? Well, I'd say get out of real estate. What I mean is, trouble is we get in real estate, we get a real estate license, and we spend our lives working with this prospective buyer, that prospect, and I think if it were up to me, I'd say nobody gets a real estate license till they get about 10 listings under their belt. Now you can have a license and go try and sell them. I'm being a little facetious there, but I would say, son, be a lister. Become a lister. All your energies into becoming a lister. That's what I would tell my son if he got real estate today.
So if I were just lost a job from a corporate position, or my technology position got displaced, and I were getting into the real estate industry, what's kind of the one thing that you feel like you'd tell me to say, pay attention to this?
Well, I think most important, learn to sell. Hard work won't hurt. But, you know, some people know my story. When I came into real estate, 11 and a half months, I worked 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. I had 5 sales all almost a year, and 2 of them fell through. And so hard work is one thing. But then I met a broker that was more tough love, and he made me go to sales training program, and I learned to sell. And all of a sudden I saw it as, you know, I'm not in certainly I want to serve the public and help people, but it's a sales business. Yeah. So you can't be a great lister if you're not a great salesperson.
What do you think defines a good salesperson?
Well, okay, to me, a great salesperson is somebody that is in positive control of every relationship with prospects. When I say positive control, you use the word control, and it's misunderstood. People think, well, that's to be able to get what you want through manipulation. And I've never been a manipulator, and I think positive control, unlike negative control, is to be able to get what you want because you can't be manipulated. Meaning if you're on a listing appointment, a seller says, I want you to do this, I want you to do this, don't show me that, just get down and give me your number. Who's in control? So when an agent can learn how to effectively and personably and all of this, take immediate control and keep positive control and take it to a favorable outcome, that's the key. That's what selling is.
I remember a game board to move forward to on every step was the next step, and that's about gaining positive control.
Absolutely.
Do you remember that particular conversation or a conversation that sets in that wheelhouse?
Well, it's here. I guess it's this simple, okay? And I didn't invent this. I've always been simple-minded enough to recognize it. But first, you have to, when you're on, for example, a listing appointment, okay? You have to get that seller to be able to say, hey, listen, I'm going to turn this appointment over to you.
Right.
So that's my technique that I teach how to get them to say
control.
That, right? So you're in control. Then, of course, you got to find out what their concerns and needs are. So, Floyd, what are you saying? Well, don't you look around the house right away? Well, I don't think so. I think you first understand their motivations and their needs, and then 3 people, meaning husband and wife and yourself, now you're walking around and you got a little team going, and the team is looking at the house from the point of view of possibly having it sell. Then you get into what your company can do for them. Then you get into pricing. Yeah, there's a process. You take everything one step at a time, your odds soar.
I remember a lesson from your program called the Safe Island. And I've tried to explain that to agents over the years because it was such an important part of my listing presentation for 30 years. The Safe Island gave me a feeling of camaraderie with the seller and brought them onto the same side of the desk with me that we were looking at the problem together. Can you elaborate on it just a little bit?
Sure, I'd love to. I've never had an attentive student that learned it that didn't always use it from that point on.
100% of the time.
Yeah, 100%. Well, a listing appointment, for example, okay, I'm going to go over and I'll joke around. I'll bet I got some some people Wickmanized out there. So I tell them to ring the doorbell and smile, pay a compliment, take them to the kitchen table, sit down and break the ice. But then it's important that you say, before we begin, let me explain how I work. You know, I'm not interested in taking a listing for the sheer sake of taking a listing. And I do that because of my concept of selling. It's another long story. I can't do a class today, but this is not what we want happening, Mr. and Mrs. Sellers. So prevent your home from coming on the market and expiring. I've designed a process I like to follow through this appointment. And if we can follow the process, the 3 of us will make a decision that'll keep us off this list. So can I begin my process? So you're showing them your process. And when you show them your process that you want to follow tonight, and they say, okay, that sounds good, they just handed you positive control of that appointment.
Right.
Well, you know, I like to refer to it as a POCA, meaning P-O-C-A, preview of coming attractions. That's really what it is.
Okay.
I have one for a buyer, one for when you present an offer, one for when you present a counter offer, because you have to be in positive control.
To set up a series of events that are going to occur and reach an agreement, get permission from
Yeah.
the seller gains positive control.
Right. And what's the reason for you asking for that control is you don't want to take a listing and have it expire. What's the reason you'd ask that from a buyer? You don't want to have them try and buy a house and it doesn't go through. So it's actually a very non-pressure technique.
Yeah. When you look at the real estate industry in 2013, or frankly any year over the course of both of our careers, what would you say to those agents that are maybe picking up on this and struggling right now?
Well, the only way if I could look them in the eye and say, you know what, remove your option to fail. Somebody asked me, why is turnover so great in real estate? Why do so many people get in and end up out of the business? Well, the people don't end out of the business when they learn a certain thing. I think the turnover is so great because it's too easy to get in, it's too easy to get out, and it's too optional while you're in. And I believe if you give people the option to fail, 70% will take it every time. So what I do is I'd say go to a broker that'll teach you. Go to a broker that will direct you to learn how to do it, as opposed to doing your own thing every day. That's the best way I can answer that.
Yeah. So you think that maybe in summary, the biggest problem that they seem to be facing on a day-to-day might be that they don't have a sense of accountability.
Yes.
Or a sense of what to do structurally.
Right. Oh well, yeah. You're getting me excited here because it's so easy. I shouldn't say easy, but simple to take somebody that's not productive and make them productive by having them master that formula. Interesting thing, because you started this by saying, well, not just this year, but all the years. What is the difference? Well, there's a formula for succeeding in real estate. It's never changed. Each week you work on bringing in a saleable listing first. Second, you separate lookers from buyers. And third, you work on selling in-house inventory. And if you focus, however, when we look at that, we say, well, yeah, but listings haven't been selling. That isn't the point. You see, the formula never changes. The ratios change. In a great market, if you can keep 5-6 listings on the books at all times, you're going to do pretty good. In a cold market, you might have to have 15, 18, 20. But it's still the same formula. So new people master working that formula, which is, well, frankly, what my program's all about, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Are there actual skills that you could transfer to a person to help them better their career?
Right. Sure. I mean, we can show somebody what to say, when to say it, and what to say if they don't say what they're supposed to say. We could teach that. But just as important, okay, is when you say it and how you say it. Yeah. It's all in that delivery. I'll bet you, over all those weeks of training with me, there's a lot of hours of role play, if you recall. Yeah. Okay? And what is really role play is it's these people sitting across from you saying something like, right about then you should have put a little smile on your face because that was a little chuckle, or get your hands out from underneath the table, okay? Or so
maybe lean forward a little bit at that point.
There's delivery skills that people can learn. I don't mean body language makes a difference, but you can take, here, does having a script make an actor? Or does going to learn how to act along with the script make the actor?
I think the acting part plays.
Absolutely, I'm never going to replace some of those guys that I love their movies, that do those movies, because I've never taken acting classes. Sound classes I have.
Just reading the words isn't going to get it done.
No, I often say I'm not a fan of script unless the prospect has their copy. Okay, I'm emailing you off a copy, sir. Study it. I'll be there in an hour. Right? It doesn't work that way.
So what is the secret pill then? Not script, but the word that you've always used is dialogue.
Yeah, dialogue is an interaction between two or more people, okay, that cause the people to make a decision that's favorable. and it takes, it takes skill to keep a dialogue going.
Right.
At a later program, when we expand a bit, I can show some people some of the techniques in doing that. But the bottom line is dialogue has to be an interaction. You never make a decision for those people. You pose a question in a fashion where they make the right decision.
Right.
There's so many factors.
So Floyd, if you were to put a finger on one characteristic that really separates the top producers from the ones that are struggling, what do you think that one thing is? Because that's what they all want to hear, right? What's that one thing?
Well, if there's one thing, the ability to get face to face, the ability to get a buyer into the office, get a buyer to get a listing appointment. I mean, I've seen it happen so many times. People have this great presentation, and their companies have great reasons why sellers should list with them, but agents don't know how to get in the door.
Right. Because of you, I stopped talking about commission on the phone. I stopped talking about price on the phone. I stopped talking about marketing on the phone, and I just started talking about an appointment.
Right.
And it's a hard lesson for a real estate agent to do, because the seller wants to talk about price, commission, and marketing while they're on the phone deciding if they want you to come over.
Right.
So,
and there's a reason. You want to know the best way to keep somebody in suspense?
Go ahead.
I'll tell you later. See, you just named the most important things to them. The commission and the price and how long do you take the listing for and can you sell it? All of those things, you have to take an attitude that, I teach that Naval Reserve salute, I would call it. Gee, I don't know. I haven't seen your house yet. Let's get together. Because there's so many factors that are involved in pricing and timing and all that. Until you analyze the property, analyze the seller, create a connection, and be able to sell yourself. I wouldn't give up a price to anybody unless I had an opportunity to talk with them about doing business with me.
It's a fair exchange.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure. I haven't seen your home yet. I'd like to come over and sit down with you. When I get there,
right.
We're going to go over that price, the commission, and the marketing.
Right, exactly.
It's a tough lesson to teach a non-sales person, I think.
Exactly.
They're just thinking, I'm in service to this person. I'm going to go ahead and give them everything at the one time. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, and it isn't that. I want to defend that person, the salesperson.
Sure.
Okay. It isn't that. It's that they've never been made or chose or pushed into learning the right skills.
Yeah.
That's why my trainers, they don't have any problem, visiting companies and seeing if companies can give them enough agents to do the job. Because we don't want any agents in the program that won't work at it.
Well, it goes back to the original, testimonial that I gave. I mean, it's not just what you say, because you do such a great job teaching dialogue and the words to use, but ultimately it's when you say it sometimes that's sometimes much, much more important than what you say.
And the voice inflection. Yeah. And the eye contact.
And that's what your program has been so effective in teaching over the last few years.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to hear about a breakthrough that you've witnessed with maybe an individual who was struggling, that you were able to watch what they were able to do after going through a program with your company.
I can tell you that in my programs since the beginning, 82% of the people that start the program were in the bottom 50% of production or brand new.
Right.
And the people still average over one transaction per person per week during the program. But
even though they were in the bottom half when you met them.
82%.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But here's the interesting thing. I want to talk now, because all those years of statistics, what does it mean? But as you well know, currently the market said we need listings. Right. Well, here we've got this huge number of real estate agents out there. They don't know how to get listings.
Right.
When it's what we need now. I did a program for a company in Dearborn, Michigan, okay, suburb, Detroit area, not Detroit, suburb of Detroit.
It's been struggling a little bit up there in
Absolutely.
Rust Belt.
26 people in 49 days brought in 82 listings.
I wouldn't mind managing that brokerage.
No, it's huge. I know. We just graduated a large company in Massachusetts. And there were 66 people that my trainer had in the program. Okay, I didn't do this. And 66 people brought in 188 listings.
Wow.
In 42 days.
In this market?
Yes.
Today's market?
Absolutely.
Where listings are pretty hard to come by.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, they had 254 sales and sold listings in 42 days.
You talk about the success of a group, and a small group of people achieving something great, and that is one of the key ingredients in your program, is to create a sense of teamwork and camaraderie. But do you have any individuals recent that really stand out in your mind as to having been, personally transformed or went kind of a zero to hero story?
Right. Well, I think of a young lady, Felice, out of Ann Arbor, very competitive market. By the year before the program, she took the program in 2011.
Right.
The year before the program, she had 20 transactions, full time. In 2012, she did 48 transactions. And what is it? Right now, it's the beginning of October, right? So far, she's got 56 transactions for this year.
Yeah.
3/4 of the way through.
I think that had a little effect on her children's holiday season.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We have a young lady in Georgia, Marie, that, and I jotted this down because it's just super, okay? She, in 2012, she did 106 transactions. Graduated the program, started working at it, did 106 transactions. This year, okay, and last year I have to add this. She adopted 4 children, okay, and she was a one-on-one personal caretaker for her sister who had an illness.
And still closing 10 deals a month.
Exactly, exactly. That's how, that's being in positive control. This year, 2013, we're just in the beginning of October, she's got 101 transactions already. I'd say that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think here, and this is what knowing how to sell can do for you. This might be the ultimate one, okay? Because we can increase per person production 200%. But let's just take Bob. Left New York, okay, graduated the program. Several months later, he leaves New York, and he moves to Georgia. A New Yorker in Georgia. Plant that in your mind, okay? And in 2012, he got 67 listings. Yeah. Brand new to that area, never been there
Top
before.
2 or 3 agents.
Absolutely.
2 or 3% of the agents in the country that hit those kind of numbers.
Yeah. And this year, he's got 79 transactions at this point.
Yeah, the thing that that wakes me up in the morning is think of the transformation for his family and the children in his family that he can serve when so many other real estate agents are struggling. I mean, people, think it's idealistic or a little soft and mushy, but I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
These folks weren't able to do that stuff.
Right.
Before. And gaining those skills, I mean, what would you say the one thing that they did different? And I know I keep coming back to this one thing, but what do you think it is?
They worked the formula.
Yeah.
And I couldn't make it clearer than that. But it's also, we have to understand what they have to go through to learn how to do all that. They go through weeks and weeks with me or one of my trainers, right?
Right.
And but it isn't just learning. It's there's 5 components of my program that I have to say creates permanent change in people. It'll do it with the newest people, the lowest producers, if they're serious about changing. First thing is space training. I teach them something this week. And I teach them something at a higher level next week. Mandatory activity. They have to do work each week during those weeks. Role playing. Everything they learn in class, we have to practice and critique them. Teamwork, big part of it. And of course, there's the accountability, meaning they, and what I mean by that is if they don't do the assignment, they get a strike. That's never changed in my program.
And there aren't too many brokers that are willing to put out strikes anymore.
Well, I don't think it's the right thing for a broker to do. I think a person like me that comes in, not everybody has to take the class. They're all there voluntarily, right? So we can be as tough as we want to be on them. But I might add, tough love. There's nobody ever, I mean, we got 99% satisfaction rating, so.
What do you think a top producer should be defined as in 2013, for example? I mean, what level would I want to aspire to, or would an audience member want to say, that's a number, that's a real number?
Boy, that I don't think I can answer. I've never been.
Every market's different.
I've never been in the business of trying to take somebody to the top.
Yeah.
You with me?
Right.
Being number one isn't all it's made out to be. Okay, just remember this: it's the second mouse that gets the cheese. All right, don't forget that. But the bottom line is, if people come in this business and they can, with balance in their life, achieve their desired income. Yeah. That to me is as successful as it gets.
I used to say to folks, though, in Florida, where I'm from, if you're not making $72,000 to $100,000 with your real estate license, there's probably some better places you could be.
Absolutely.
And with working the formula, I think that's kind of a minimum wage to set up for an agent's expectation. If they're going to work the formula, $2.5 to $3 million is pretty reasonable, I would think, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, without a doubt, you're 72 to 100. I buy that 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, this business is the highest paid hard work business in the world.
It's the highest return on invested time I could find in sales.
Exactly. Oh, so don't misunderstand me. I mean, that's why we work so hard to help people get to 100 transactions for crying out, let alone 100,000.
I was a big fan. And, you've always been one of my role models and someone who I consider to have been a prime mentor for me, honestly. I know about your relationship with Zig Ziglar and the book that you just put together about a year after he passed.
Right.
I just wondered if you might want to talk about the book that you put together and why you chose this time to put it together.
Well, first of all, I put it together because one time, one of my trainers asked Zig, I took my key trainers for lunch with Zig and his wife Jean one day, and one of my trainers says, what is the most important thing we can do for Floyd? That's what she asked Zig. And of course, I wish I wasn't even sitting there, but Zig said, carry on his legacy. Now, that got planted in my brain. Another time I was having lunch, and Zig, this was after his stroke. He fell, he had a stroke. And we're having lunch at his beautiful retirement home they lived in. And he asked me, he said, Floyd, how many books did you write? That's how you'd always do it. I said, well, I have 7. He said, well, I would encourage you. And then I always took that as, that's one of the commandments, okay? That's what Moses brought down, the encouragement. And he said, I would encourage you to write another one. And it came there and here, legacy.
Yeah.
So I just started thinking, what lessons have I learned from Zig? We've never been buddy-buddy, hung around, but every time I had an obstacle or an opportunity, I'd pick up the phone and I'd call Zig. And he has answered the phone on the golf course. He's answered the phone in his bathroom. And I never kept him longer than a few minutes. I would always say, Zig, here's my obstacle, or here's my opportunity. What advice could you give me? first words out of his mouth, I considered that was it. Because Zig will cut to the chase. And he'll talk with you as long as you want it. So, anyhow, I finally, the book just came out. It's entitled Lessons from My Brother Zig.
Yeah.
And of course, he's not my real brother, but he is my brother.
Yeah.
And in there are 16 lessons that I learned from Zig over the years to make me a better husband, better man, better trainer, better speaker, everything, to be honest with you. And so myself and my top trainer, Mary Johnson, she helped me write and put a lot of my lessons in there. So it's a nice combination. Great book.
Floyd shared a story this morning about his first nervous meeting with Zig Ziglar, and I had a first nervous meeting with you this morning, and Mr. Wickman was nice enough to give me a copy of this book, and I can tell you it'll be a quick read for me. It'll be something that I'll be really looking forward to paying attention to. So this was the
you're
first.
More than welcome.
Thank you, really. But this was the first of many sessions that we're going to put together over the next several weeks, and just to have the opportunity to have a conversation like this. And to give our audience so much insight as to, not only the program, because I want them to participate in the program. One of the best things that's happened to Associate Works during 2013 is this partnership, because what Carrie and I have done at Associate Works is to put together some turnkey distance learning solutions, online solutions that can come into your office and share with you what to do and maybe why to do things, and to have some relationships that now the Floyd Wickman program is in every market that we serve. In other words, they can bring live in-office training into those offices that we're in service to and really take it to the next step with not only what to do and maybe why to do it through this online relationship that we've created, but really to put some feet on the street and get into your offices with live personal relationships that get a little bit more into how to do it, right?
Just let us know and I'll send you in the best trainer I got.
Amen. And I'm excited to be able to add that value to these relationships, because we're affecting a lot of offices across the country, and now to have this opportunity is a real big deal for us to be able to put the Floyd Wickman program into your offices in person to add to what we're doing. I couldn't thank you enough.
Well, you're more than welcome.
And we'll do another session real soon. I appreciate it.
It's a deal.
All right. Thanks.